Okay, so this story here, of course, it happened at the tire shop. I was working on this guy's vehicle actually my guys were working on this guy's vehicle, and me and the guy were sitting in the office and we were having a conversation with each other. And he looked at me and he says, he looked at me astutely and he says, I don't know you, you don't know me. Which, I mean, I did know him from him being around like once or twice a year and stuff, but I didn't know him at all. And he's like, I don't know you, you don't know me. He's like, so here's the deal. He's like, and I think he was like a teacher. He was some kind of a young urban professional. He really looked to me like he really had his life in order, and he seemed like a good guy. And but anyways, he looks at me and he says, he's like, well, I was going to call you on the first day of archery season. And I was like, oh yeah? I was like, what was happening? He's like, well, let me tell you something about myself. Archery season is like the Super Bowl, like the Daytona 500. It's like, it's everything all rolled into one. He loves archery season. And I was like, oh, you know, that's good. I know a lot of people that hunt and this and that. And he's like, no. He's like, you don't understand. He goes, I take my clothes and I put them in this special place and I smoke them and I leave them outside. And he's like, he said that he walks to the tree stand and like when he goes, he finds all the trees that have fallen in, the litter and all that stuff, and he sweeps it off to the side. So he doesn't make any noise at all going to his tree stand. And when he told me about his tree stand, he said it was a ladder stand. And he said, you know, I checked everything once, I checked it twice, I mean, I made sure everything was good. He's like, and I went down the whole way, and I walked it several times. And he's like, the only thing that could make any noise at all, he's like, there's one thing that could make some noise. He's like, my ladder, he's like, when I got like halfway up on it, there was a chance it could go tunk tunk, you know, just make that noise. And it was a very minute sound and all this and that. He's like, but you know, I wasn't worried about it. He was like, I was going to be okay. So he goes to bed and he gets up for archery season and all this and that. He goes down and he's down there and you know he's snaking down and he's being real careful and all this and that. And so he gets down there and he gets, you know, he does this, he does that, he gets on the ladder, he starts going up. He's going up, he's going up. And he did it. It goes dunk dunk. He's like, and it made that noise. Clunk clunk. You know, I mean, there was that noise. And it wasn't even that big of a noise or anything like that. But I mean, as soon as he did that, it was like a pack of wild rhinos, gorillas, whatever. It went stomping through the swamp. And I mean, it was making noise. Like, I think whatever it was, he had definitely caught it. Like, it didn't expect him to be there because his clothes had been smoked. His scent had been covered, you know, everything about it. Like, this guy was so good about going out and doing this, and I think whatever it was, and I think, well, you know, book for it, I think he caught him by surprise. And I think it didn't like that, and it went raring and tearing through the swamp. I think. He's like, as soon as he heard it right in front of him, there was like, it sounded like a pack of rhinos, a gorilla, I mean, anything you can think of right in front of him. It was like tearing off through the swamp, you know, and it was so loud and this and that. He's like, but, so I sat in the tree stand for about the next 4 hours, sitting there holding a broadhead in my hand, thinking about, I am going to call that guy. I'm going to tell this. the whole time he was arguing with himself about whether or not he's going to call me and stuff, but he's sitting there the whole time, and he had the broadhead in his hand, and he didn't have a gun or anything else, but he was like, what do I do? He's like, if this thing comes back, he's like, I'm just going to stab it, I'm going to make a stand, and I was like, oh, that is so great, man, that is awesome. And so we got to talking about it and stuff, and I thought that was a good story and everything, and he tells that story and he goes to the next one. He's like, well, me and my son, he's like, my son's like a 12-year-old hunter or something like that. He's like, as a matter of fact, we're in this property. And I said to him, I said, where's this property at? And he told me, and lo and behold, it was like one of our favorite, most productive areas that there's ever been. And I don't want to say it, but it's out there by the school. And so he was saying that him and his son were hunting in archery season, after this happened and stuff. And he said his son was sitting there, and he went up there and this and that. And at the end of the day, he come back and he grabbed his son, and he's like, what do you think of it? And the kid's like, yeah. He's like, you didn't like it? He's like, I don't know. I don't know. He's like, well, what's wrong, buddy? I mean, what happened and this and that. So like after he goes and he questions the kid, what's going on? The kid ends up saying, he's like, Dad, I saw a bear. And he's like, okay, he's like, well, you're going to see things like this out here in the woods. He's like, this was a bear on two legs. He's like, what now? He's like, Dad, I saw a bear walking on two legs, and I really don't want to hunt there anymore. He's like, well, okay. He's like, we don't have to hunt there, and he was glad that the kid hadn't given up on his ambitions of hunting. But, I mean, he didn't want to hunt there, no way, no how. And I was like, okay, so, the story is starting to, really starting to take on a life of its own. And I think he didn't really take a lot of pleasure telling his dad this, because hunting was a big deal to his dad. But he's like, Dad, I don't want to hunt here no more. And his dad's like, he's like, okay, buddy, I mean, that's all right. He's like, do you want to hunt anymore? And he's like, yeah, I'd like to hunt, but he didn't want to hunt there anymore because he saw the bear on two legs walk right under his tree stand, basically. And, man, it was really something. So, after all this is done, this is really, I think this is where it gets good. Because, this was probably 5 years ago, I'd say, when I had this exchange with this guy. Well, this year, I was over at the little corner grocery over here, Hawk's Grocery, and I was in there, and I was getting something to eat and whatever, and I looked over, and there he was. He was in there, and I was trying to be low-key, because, this guy definitely don't want me saying, hey, what about that Bigfoot, so I'm low-key and stuff. So he's in there, and he's buying stuff, and I said, hey, I was like, how's archery season this year? And he looked at me, and I was like, and he goes, I didn't archery hunt this year. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I didn't go archery hunting this year, and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. So there it was, within a matter of 6 years. The guy telling me that archery season is like the Daytona 500, the Super Bowl, like it's all wrapped up into one. And there he was 6 years later when I saw him being all low-key, and I said, do you do any good archery hunting this year? And he goes, oh, I don't know, I didn't go archery hunting this year. I was like, huh, well, that kind of figures. I mean, I don't know. I think that it's really telling. It's really telling, and I'm sorry to hear that this guy had something stolen from him, but he kind of did.
I can see you coming from a mile away. No need to see you anymore today. Sunsets behind the hills, I can't wish it back. Feels like I've been here once before, and I fell right down to the ground. One thing about you, you stay the same. Don't wanna be the only one, be the one caught looking like a fool. Don't wanna live with it, don't like the taste of it. Packed up all my shit and headed out the door. And I can't get back the things that I stole. And I won't walk away from this life I love. Got down on my knees and kissed the stars above. Don't wanna be the only one, be the one caught looking like a fool. Don't wanna live with it, don't like the taste of it. Place bets and take the pills, tell me what I like. Seems like I have been told all this before. Yell in my face, I don't hear a sound. I feel no guilt, I feel no pain. Don't wanna be the only one, be the one caught looking like a fool. Don't wanna live with it, don't like the taste of